Welcome back to English Podcast course. Today, we'll practice fun English conversations for...
So, I wandered into the library last Sunday and somehow lost track of time. There's just something about those endless aisles of books that makes me forget I even have a phone.
Honestly, every time I step into a library, it feels like stepping into another dimension. I went in for one book last month and left 2 hours later with a pile I could barely carry.
It's a classic trap. I tell myself, just 10 minutes, and suddenly I'm contemplating learning medieval history or how to knit.
Ha! And isn't it wild how you'll stumble on topics you never thought you cared about? Once I found myself skimming a book on cheese making. I've literally never made cheese in my life.
That reminds me, have you ever had to track down a book with only half the title or a vague description? I basically become a detective, minus the cool trench coat.
Oh, absolutely. I once told a librarian I was looking for a book with a blue cover and something about dragons. Somehow, they knew exactly which one I meant. Librarians have superpowers. I swear.
Seriously, librarians are like mind readers. Or maybe they just know every book by heart. It's impressive and a little intimidating.
Totally agree. And they never make you feel silly, even when your description is basically that book with the thing on the cover. Makes searching a lot less stressful.
You know, libraries aren't just about books, either. I met one of my closest friends at a library event over a heated debate about which classic novel deserved a movie adaptation.
No way. I've made random connections at libraries too. There's this silent camaraderie, like you're all in on a shared secret, you nod over your books, or share a conspiratorial eye roll when someone's phone rings.
Exactly. It's the only place where a whispered conversation can feel like a full-on adventure. And don't get me started on those impromptu book recommendations from strangers. Sometimes those are pure gold.
Oh, for sure. One time, someone slipped a sticky note into a book recommending the sequel. It was like getting a treasure map from a literary pirate.
It's wild how libraries have evolved lately. Last week, I saw a 3D printer next to the kids section. Meanwhile, I'm still figuring out how to print a regular document without jamming the machine.
Same here. Some libraries look more like high-tech labs now. There's everything from coding workshops to podcast studios. It almost makes me want to camp there overnight and try it all out.
Yeah, and the quiet study rooms? They're like mini fortresses of productivity. I've never gotten so much done as when I hide out in one of those glass cubes.
Those spaces are lifesavers, especially during finals season. But honestly, even just walking past the board games and art exhibits makes me appreciate how creative libraries have gotten with reaching people.
Let's talk about the unwritten rules. Like, you'd think everyone would know you can't take a phone call in the middle of the main reading room. But nope, there's always that one person.
And then there's the classic whisper wars, where two people try to out-whisper each other and it somehow gets even more distracting than talking at a normal volume.
I've also noticed the seat saver phenomenon. One jacket draped over a chair, and suddenly it's reserved for eternity. There should be a timer or something.
Or the silent snackers crinkling wrappers like it's a stealth mission. But honestly, those quirks are part of what makes libraries so memorable. It's all these little rituals that keep it feeling both familiar and a bit mysterious.
With everything going digital, it's kind of amazing libraries are still so relevant. There's just something irreplaceable about physically browsing for a book or stumbling onto a new favorite by accident.
Completely agree. And I think it's the sense of discovery. Algorithms can recommend titles online, but they can't replicate that feeling of pulling a random book off the shelf and being surprised.
Plus, libraries are one of the last true public spaces. You don't have to buy anything to belong there. It feels like a little pocket of calm in a noisy world.
Right, and with all the resources from free workshops to community events, they're still at the heart of so many neighborhoods. I'd really miss them if they ever disappeared.
You know, every time I walk into a post office, I immediately panic about forgetting something like, did I actually bring the letter? Or am I missing a stamp? The stakes feel weirdly high for a place with so much fluorescent lighting.
Oh, the forgotten stamp drama is real. One time, I waited in line for 15 minutes only to realize my envelope was already sealed with nothing inside. Talk about mailroom existential crisis.
That's a classic. The worst is when you finally get to the front, only to be told you're in the wrong line because, surprise, package drop-off has its own secret queue.
It's like those lines move according to their own mysterious logic, and there's always that one person with a box of 30 oddly shaped parcels. You just know you're going to be there forever.
That actually reminds me, have you ever noticed the unspoken rules everyone seems to know at the post office? Like, there's this sacred space you're supposed to leave between yourself and the next person in line.
Yeah, and if you cross that invisible boundary, you get the side eye of doom. It's almost as intense as elevator etiquette, but with more stamps involved.
And let's not forget the awkward dance when you're trying to fill out those forms on the tiny little writing counter, elbow to elbow with 3 strangers, all pretending they're not reading each other's addresses.
That always cracks me up. I once had someone practically spelling out their life story while writing the return address. I felt like I should offer to proofread or something. Speaking of forms,
Why are those shipping forms always so confusing? I can never remember which side is for the sender and which is for the recipient. I end up second-guessing myself every single time.
honestly, whoever designed those forms must enjoy watching people squint in confusion. And there's always that pressure when the line's moving like, am I just gonna hold everyone up with my indecisiveness?
Totally. And then there's the pin situation. If you find one that actually works, you guard it like treasure. Otherwise, it's a frantic search through your bag, hoping for a miracle ballpoint.
Exactly. There's an unwritten rule: whoever has the working pen is basically the king of the counter. People start eyeing you, silently begging to borrow it for just a second.
You know, for all the chaos, I have to hand it to the postal workers. They're like multitasking ninjas behind that counter juggling stamps, weighing packages, answering questions about international shipping, all while keeping a straight face.
Seriously, the patience is impressive. Last month, I watched one explain customs forms to at least 6 different people in a row, each more confused than the last. I would have just started speaking in post office jargon to scare everyone off.
It's almost like they have a secret degree in crisis management. I once saw a clerk calm down a guy who thought his package had vanished into a black hole, turns out. He just dropped it in the wrong slot.
That's dedication. And honestly, sometimes I think they deserve a superhero cape for all the random emergencies they deal with. From lost packages to stamp meltdowns, they've seen it all.
What always surprises me is how emotional things can get at the post office. There's someone mailing a baby blanket to a new grandkid or sending off a care package. It's like a little crossroads of life moments.
Totally, and then there's that little sigh of relief when you finally drop your letter in the box. It's almost ceremonial, the grand finale to your postal adventure.
I've actually found myself wishing good luck to my envelope, like, "Safe travels, little guy." Is that weird?
Not at all. I do the same. Maybe one day they'll invent a way to track envelopes with a live feed just so we can see our mail's epic journey. Until then, I'll keep cheering them on from the queue.
So, I swear, every time I go to a museum, the adventure starts before I even step inside. I got lost in the parking lot last weekend twice.
You're not alone. I once followed a group of kids through the staff entrance by accident. The security guard's face was priceless, like, not again.
There's something about museums that scrambles navigation skills. Maybe it's all the anticipation, or just ominous signage.
Or maybe it's their labyrinth design. You'd think they were trying to hide the entrance like it's the Mona Lisa itself. But hey, once you finally get inside, that sense of accomplishment is real.
Stepping into the grand hall always gets me, though. No matter how flustered I am, I suddenly feel like I'm in a movie.
Seriously, those ceilings. It's like the building's showing off, look how important I am. And there's always that echo, no matter how quietly you talk.
Echoes and marble floors. I feel like I should whisper or burst into song. There's something kind of magical about that huge open space.
Totally. It's the only place where staring up at the ceiling for 5 minutes is considered appreciating the art. Actually, have you ever tried to guess what's on the other floors just from the directory?
Ha! Those maps always look so clear until you're inside. I always end up in the gift shop looking for the dinosaurs and somehow surrounded by postcards instead.
I relate to that way too much. 1 minute I'm following the arrows for ancient Egypt. Next thing I know, I'm knee-deep in modern art I didn't plan to see.
And there's always a detour. Like, oh, a mummified cat, I'll just pop in for a second. And suddenly, it's an hour later.
Distractions are inevitable. I think half the fun is letting yourself get sidetracked. Actually, sometimes the best discoveries are the random ones you stumble across by accident.
Speaking of surprises, I always find myself weirdly obsessed with the oddball exhibits. Like last month's vintage lunchbox collection? Didn't see that coming.
Those are the best. I once spent an entire afternoon with antique telephones, forgot to see the famous paintings I came for. There's something charming about the stuff you never expect to like.
Same. I get more excited for cabinets of curiosity than for masterpieces sometimes. There's a kind of joy in the weird and quirky corners.
They're like the hidden tracks on an album if you know you know. Plus, it's way easier to grab a selfie next to a giant pencil than, say, next to a Rembrandt with a crowd pressing in.
After hours of wandering, I always end up at the museum cafe, totally wiped, staring at a piece of cake like it's another artifact.
There's a special kind of tired you get from a museum day. I love eavesdropping on other visitors rehashing what they loved or what they didn't get at all.
That's so true. And somehow, buying a souvenir pencil or magnet feels like proof you went on an epic quest. It's my little trophy for making it through the maze.
Leaving with a bag of weird trinkets and a head full of random facts, that's the perfect ending, honestly. Makes me want to plan my next trip already.
I swear, the moment my alarm rings for an early flight, my brain goes straight into panic mode. It's like, did I even pack my charger? And where did I put my passport all at once?
Oh, I totally relate. The worst is when you barely sleep because you're running through your packing list in your head. I once woke up convinced I'd left my shoes behind, only to realize I was literally wearing them.
It's like our brains invent emergencies just for fun. And then, you're clumsily tossing things into your bag, hoping you're not forgetting that one crucial thing.
Honestly, I think half my airport stress is created before I even leave the house. But then comes the classic trying to book a ride, hoping your driver isn't lost in the next zip code.
Once you actually get to the airport, though, there's always that moment you size up the security line and just sigh, right? It doesn't matter if you're early, those lines feel like they move at glacial speed.
I'm convinced security lines are where time stands still, and just when you think you're close, someone ahead forgets to take out their laptop and everything grinds to a halt.
Or the person with the mystery objects in their carry-on like, who travels with 5 jars of peanut butter? Suddenly, it's a group activity to figure out what's in their bag.
What cracks me up is watching everyone do the security shuffle, shoes off, belts off, pockets emptied. It's the world's least glamorous catwalk. After that chaos, you'd think the drama is over, but really it just shifts location.
You know, once you're finally through security, the gate area is its own little universe. People napping in bizarre yoga poses, someone having a heated phone call, and that one person who brought an entire picnic.
I love people watching at gates. There's always at least one overly enthusiastic group talking about their vacation plans at max volume. Meanwhile, I'm just trying to snag the only outlet that works.
Seriously. And the outlets are always in the most awkward spot, like between two strangers who obviously don't want to make eye contact. But what really gets me is the suspense of wondering if your flight's actually going to board on time.
Totally. The moment an airline employee picks up the microphone, the whole crowd quiets down like school kids, waiting for news. It's airport drama at its finest.
And then comes the boarding call, which always sparks this weird urgency. Everyone leaps up, even though their group's not called yet. It turns into a low-key race to the gate.
No matter how many times I fly, I get caught up in the scramble. There's this unspoken competition for overhead bin space, like a high-stakes game of Tetris with suitcases.
It's hilarious watching people try to cram bags that clearly don't fit, then act shocked when it doesn't work. Sometimes I feel like we need referees just to keep the peace at boarding.
You'd think, after years of flying, we'd have this down to a science. But somehow, the boarding zone always devolves into a comedy of errors, and that's before you even find your seat.
Once you do find your seat, there's that little sigh of relief, and then the ritual begins. Stow your bag, buckle up, and pretend to ignore your neighbor's elbow invading your space.
I swear, personal space shrinks to nothing on a plane. The classic battle for the armrest is my least favorite sport. And then you always get that one person who immediately goes for their in-flight snacks before takeoff.
That always makes me hungry. Like suddenly eating a granola bar at 6 a.m. is the most natural thing in the world. But as soon as the plane starts taxiing, all the chaos sort of melts away, for a little while anyway.
You know, despite all the madness, there's something weirdly comforting about that moment before takeoff, like everyone's fine.
You know, walking into a laundromat always feels a bit like stepping into someone else's living room, except everyone's folding underwear instead of watching TV.
I've definitely gotten some intense side-eye just for unloading my clothes too quickly. It's wild how there's this whole etiquette you only learn after accidentally breaking 3 unspoken rules.
Seriously, like, who knew you needed a PhD in machine timing? I once left my stuff in a dryer 5 minutes too long, and when I came back, someone had stacked my socks with the precision of a Jenga master.
Oh, and God forbid you hover too close to someone else's machine. People guard those washers like they're protecting state secrets. Makes me wonder if there's a laundromat etiquette handbook out there somewhere.
Thinking about it, have you ever had a laundry disaster? I once dyed an entire load of whites, a lovely shade of pink. Thank you, Rogue Red Sock.
My personal favorite, setting a wash cycle to hot by accident, then opening the door to find my wool sweater shrunk to dog outfit size. I kept it as a cautionary tale to my future self.
It's always socks or sweaters, isn't it? And then there's that moment when your detergent explodes all over the floor, and you have to pretend it's totally normal, just mopping up blue goo while strangers pretend not to notice.
That's when you realize everyone's been there. I once tried to clean up a dryer lint explosion, but that stuff might as well be glitter impossible to pick up, and it ends up on everything for the next month.
Speaking of lint, half the fun of laundromats is people watching. I've seen folks multitask like pros balancing their checkbooks, reading novels, even one guy eating spaghetti straight from a Tupperware.
That's peak laundromat energy. I once saw a woman giving herself a full mani-pedi while her delicates spun. Honestly, it's like the waiting room of life. Everyone's just killing time in their own weird way.
There's always that one kid who's convinced the rolling cart is a race car too. I used to envy them, zipping up and down the aisles while their parents pretended not to see the chaos.
And don't forget the regulars. Every laundromat has at least one person who seems to know every machine's quirks. I secretly aspire to that level of expertise someday.
Weirdly enough, I've had some of my most random conversations at laundromats. Something about folding towels next to someone makes it easier to strike up a chat, even if it's just mutual whining about the broken change machine.
Oh, totally. I once bonded with a stranger over our mutual confusion about those mysterious detergent pods. By the end, we were comparing stain removal hacks like we'd known each other for years.
Isn't it funny? You walk in as strangers, but everyone's in the same boat, just hoping their jeans don't come out 2 sizes smaller. There's something comforting about that kind of shared struggle.
And sometimes you leave with a new tip or even a new friend. Well, at least until your cycle finishes and you both have to dash off into the spin cycle of life again.
What gets me is how laundromats manage to be both utterly mundane and kind of magical. You come in grumpy, but there's something oddly satisfying about seeing your clothes come out fresh and warm.
There's this quiet victory in folding a perfectly flat towel or discovering you didn't actually lose a sock this time. Plus, the scent of clean laundry is basically instant happiness.
It's true. I always leave a laundromat feeling a little lighter. Maybe it's just the weight of dirty jeans gone. Or maybe it's proof that even the most tedious chores have their silver linings.
Now I'm wondering what other everyday spots hold these tiny joys. Maybe next week we'll find out in the grocery store produce aisle.
Thanks you and see you next time.